Morning, student. Am I audible?
Good morning, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, good morning to all of you. We'll start our one of the new subject, that is the power system 2. Okay. Now, under this power system 2, we are supposed to cover the very important topic in electrical engineering, that is known as the power protection. Have you heard this subject, power system protection? Name of this particular thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is very important subject in electrical engineering, because electrical machines, power system, and this is control, electronics. Now, under this particular power system protection, though the subject name is power system 2, but entirely power system protection, as well as the some of the power system operation control, those things, those topics will be covered. Okay. So this particular subject, myself and your Anil sir, Anil Kumar sir, he will, both of us will take this particular paper. 3 class I will be taking and 2 class I will be taking. There are 5 classes for this particular subject. Now the reference book you can take either SS Rao, that is power system protection, or you can refer for the power system operation control, Nagarath and Kothari, CL Wadhwa. Okay, those books you can take as a reference book for that. So prior to starting this particular subject, I will say that in power system 1, whatever we have discussed, that was basically your all the basic concept of the power system. Now in power system 2, it is a higher version, or the, let us say, advanced version of the power system, where we'll be dealing with the application of those electrical apparatus in the real world, okay, real life applications. So how we are going to protect various electrical appliances, which are the major electrical appliances, we'll say, and what are the different types of power system operational and control strategies. Okay, so we'll discuss one by one those things. I will just take, do you know the syllabus of that particular thing, this particular subject? Syllabus आपके पास होगा ना?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Fine. So just what I will do, I will take it from the, I will just roughly have some discussion on that, brief discussion on that. Meanwhile, I will stop share this thing. Just a minute, I will come back. I'm just. Is it visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Us?
Yes, sir.
Power system 2, yes. So you see, there are, I think there are 6 modules, okay, which is actually dealing with this power system 2. First module is power unit system, okay. I will give just a brief of this particular, what are the chapters are there, then because you need to know that what you are going to study in this particular thing. Just I will quickly give some overview of those chapters. Now, power unit system and fault analysis. This fault analysis, it is dealing with the various kinds of electrical faults. There are various kinds of electrical faults which is occurring in the system. It may be a symmetrical fault, it may be unsymmetrical fault. So what are the different kind of methodology? What are the different types of analysis process it is adopted? So those things will be basically dealt in fault analysis. Now, power unit system, the module 1, that is a very small chapter, which is actually dealing with the how to convert a, let us say, your any voltage or current or any electrical quantity, rather I will say, from its base value to power unit value. So I hope you have some idea of the power unit system, because normally if how to calculate the power unit value of any electrical quantity, normally we'll assume some base value of that particular quantity. If let us say if we are dealing with the current, so we'll assume some base current, and if base current is, let us say, for example, 10 ampere. Now any current if it is, let us say, 2.5. So what will be the power unit value? Power unit value will be 2.5 by 10. So it is basically that way we are going to calculate the power unit value. So how to convert these power unit values means the base, if we change the base, and there are some numerical problems related with that. So that is very basically preliminary chapter which is dealing with this particular power unit system. Now we have something which is related with the power system operational and control. Now, first chapter is the load flow analysis. Load flow analysis, it deals with the various kinds of electrical network, how the power is flowing among the various electrical network. So we know our electrical power system, it is integrated or it is interconnected. So in those systems, let us say and there are multiple generators are also connected. So from those generator, how the electrical power will flow to various electrical transmission lines and various, let us say, various feeders, which is down the line, that is at the distribution system. So those things are basically how this electrical power will be flowing across the various electrical network. That is basically dealt in the load flow analysis. So there are various kinds of electrical buses are present, like PV bus, PQ bus, and slack bus. So those things we'll discuss in detail. And then there are numerical or the, let us say, methodology which are adopted for the performing this load flow analysis. So those methods are basically Gauss-Seidel method. Then second is the Newton-Raphson method. And there will be another method, that is the fast decoupled method. So with the help of those methods, we will be actually able to perform the load flow analysis. So those concepts, how to perform the load flow analysis, what are the various techniques available, what are the advantages of those techniques, so we will be discussing in detail in the load flow analysis. Next is the economic operation of power system. So economic operation of power system under this particular module will be basically covering there are various, let us say, n number of generators which is connected in the system. Okay. So at a particular time, let us say at any instant, maybe from 11 to 12, 11 a.m. to 12 noon, maybe 12 noon to, let us say, 1 p.m. So there are certain kinds of loads which will be existing in the system. And these loads are continuously changing. Let us say at 11 a.m., the load is 1100 megawatt. But at 11:15, the load is suddenly changed to, let us say, 1200 megawatt. So the load pattern we don't know. Depending upon the usage of the customers or the consumers, this electrical load pattern, it is continuously changing. Now, how we are going to schedule these loads among the different generators, that is basically under, and maintaining the economic factor, that is the cost of operation. So when we are going to minimize the cost of operation and we will satisfy all the let us say loads, and how we are going to distribute this load among the various generators, because generators, they will generate the electrical power, and from that it will be through the various transmission lines, it will reach to the consumers. Now what will happen, how to distribute this particular different loads among the various generators, that is under study, and maintaining the your economic factors. So we are going to minimize the cost of operation, and we are going to satisfy the, let us say, the total load of the system, and how these generators will be allocated different loads in the system. So that is the study under the economic operation of the power system. So in that particular module, we'll be taking into account the thermal system as well as the hydro system. So what are the different types of methodology to perform this economic operation of the power system, we'll discuss in detail. Okay, that is the under this particular module 4. Now next is the load frequency control. Load frequency control, this is again one of the important thing which basically deals with the it is also known as the automatic generation control. Now at a given instant, let us say we know that there is a always imbalance between the generation and load. Generation and load, it is always the load, if the load is increased, we will try to increase the generation. Similarly, if the load pattern it is decreased, so we have to reduce the generation. So this is the continuously, there is a chasing between the generation and the load. So what will happen if, let us say, if your generation is at a particular level and suddenly the load is increased, so there will be the effect in the system. So that the system frequency. So system frequency, if the load is increased and the generation is fixed, what will happen? Anyone has any idea? I would like to hear if you have any idea. I think you have read machines. What will happen? Anyone? If let us say generation is at a particular, generation is at, let us say, 1200 megawatt. Suddenly your load was at 1200 megawatt because it was satisfying 1200 megawatt. Suddenly the load is increased to 1500 megawatt. Whether there will be any effect in the system frequency, and if it is so, what will be the change?
So there will be an instability in
Anyone?
the generation process.
I cannot hear your voice. Please be louder.
So there is an instability in the generation process.
Yeah, partially.
And due to which there is a drop in the power supply to the loads. Is the quality of
the
the
power supply to the load. But actually, there is a drop in the power supply in the load. This word is very difficult to understand. Okay, you have to specify electrically. It's in terms of, as an electrical engineer, you have to specify. It is very specific question. If let us say that your generation is constant, you are increasing the load. So whether the frequency, there will be change in the frequency. If it is yes, then what will be the change? Whether the frequency will increase or frequency will drop. This is my specific question. Now you answer please. Anyone? If your generation is fixed and you are increasing the load, so there will be obviously drop in frequency. There will be drop in frequency. Frequency will drop. Okay. The synchronous generator will rotate at lesser speed. Okay. Synchronous generator, which is generating the electrical power, it will generate at lesser speed. So the frequency will fall. So now the controller, which is it is associated with the system, so that controller will start acting on that, and then finally it will basically it will nullify that particular error. That means the generation has to be increased, so the more steam will be allowed, or in case of hydro generators, more water will be allowed into the system, so the system speed, the machine speed will increase, so the frequency will increase. So and vice versa operation. If let us say if your generation is constant and you are reducing the load, so the frequency will increase. So this is the case. So how this phenomena is occurring? What are the basically components which are responsible to make this system, let us say, at stable value, or let us say, I will say, that in this system will be at let us say at par with the generation value. So we are going to discuss those systems and those let us say the methods. So that will be discussed on the load frequency control, and that is very, very important. We know that this, why this is important. I will just quote one incident, that is the blackout. Have you heard the term blackout? Electrical blackout, grid blackout?
Yes, sir.
So that is because of this reason. This load frequency control, you need to study it. So under this load frequency control, the reason for the blackout, it is very, very clear. Okay, I will just give one example. When the machine, let us say any synchronous machine, when you will synchronize any machine with the grid, there are three parameters we are going to see, we are going to observe. First parameter is your voltage should be constant. Second parameter is your phase sequence should be matching with the grid phase sequence. And third is your frequency of the synchronous generator should be equal to the frequency of the grid. So these are the three. Based on that, you can synchronize any synchronous generator with the grid. Now, what will happen? Let us say there is a mismatch of this between the generation and load. So the machine speed will reduce. So what will happen? For example, just now I have given that example. If let us say your load generation is constant and your frequency is increased, your load is increased, so frequency will drop. So machine speed will drop, machine frequency will drop. So there is a particular cutoff band between which the synchronous generator can operate. It is between the 47.5 to 52.5. This is the band, because our Indian standard, the grid frequency, it should operate at 50 Hertz. So you can go up to 47.5 and it is up to 52.5. If the generator is operating below this and above this, the machine will fall out of synchronism. That means the machine will not be able to deliver power to the grid. Rather, it will act as a synchronous motor. So that is very, very dangerous situation. So you can think of this situation that in a generating station, if let us say instead of generating that electrical power, that synchronous machine will act as a synchronous motor. So instead of generating that power or delivering that power to the grid, it is basically consuming the electricity. So that is not desirable at all. So in that condition, what will happen? The machine will be tripped. It will disconnect from the grid, and gradual disconnection of this particular one machine will cause the other machine to be disconnected from the grid, because overall what will happen? There will be shortage of generation, because one machine it is disconnected means what will happen? The generation of one machine is not contributed into the grid. So finally, what will happen? The less generation, load is more, so another machine will fall. So this way, this is a cascaded thing. So this is a very, very, let us say, dangerous situation, or I will say this electrical blackout, it is sometimes it is unavoidable. So one machine will cause the complete blackout of the grid. So there are in our India, there are various grids are connected. Means let us say region wise there are grids. So then let us say, for example, northern grid, southern grid, eastern grid, western grid. So like that they are interconnected. Okay, region wise there is a grid. So there is a cascading effect sometimes that failure of the eastern grid may cause the failure of the western grid, because these are all interconnected. Because unless and until what will happen, as they are interconnected, so the power from one region is transported to other region. So in turn, because of the less amount from one region to the other region, there will be some cascading effect, and due to that, the whole blackout situation is observed in the system. So this is very, very, let us say, it is not, sometimes it happens, it happens in many times in India. Okay, if you if you Google it, that what are the blackout situation which has happened in India, you can get those data. Okay, and what was the reason for that? That was also given in the report also, because normally after blackout, there are some certain investigation it is conducted, and based on that, the report is also uploaded. So you can cross-check that what are the reasons for which particular generator was responsible for that, and based on that, the corrective measures they have taken. So this is the basically a reason why this load frequency control is very, very important. Now I will come to the stability. Now the stability is again, it is important. I think we have, you know that power angle curve in synchronous machine. Synchronous machine. Have you read the synchronous machine in your electrical machines?
Yes, sir.
So this power angle curve, it is very, very important. This power angle curve, the nature of the power angle curve, I will just show you. It is a kind of thing. It is something like this. So this reason, this upper part, it is the generator action, and this lower part is the basically motoring action. So if we think of this from 0 to pi, your machine will operate as a synchronous generator, and from pi to 2 pi, the machine will act as a synchronous motor. Now it is observed that if it crosses this 90-degree value, this is your pi by 2, this pi by 2 value. So the system may lose out of synchronism. The system may lose out of synchronism. This is your angle, theta. This is your power angle, theta. So if this power angle crosses this value, then there is some chance of losing the synchronism. So we'll see that those things in detail, that what are the factors which is responsible to make this power system stable. Okay, there are different kinds of stabilities are also there. So that is your steady state stability, then transient stability, then there is a dynamic stability. So there are various methods to analyze the stability, that is the equal area criteria for understanding the tangent stability of a system. So those things we'll discuss in detail for the stability chapter. So this is a brief overview of this particular syllabus. So these are the things which is you are going to study. So now we'll start with the fault analysis directly. That is your module number 2. Anything you want to ask that for this particular subject? A brief overview which I have discussed just now. Should I start this particular symmetrical fault analysis?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So now the symmetrical fault. So from the name, it is clear that the term which is basically it is symmetrical. Something it is, let us say there is some symmetries there. So symmetry, from where this particular term is coming, if let us say in any electrical system, if there is a fault is occurring on the 3 phases, okay, 3 phases faults are occurring, and those fault currents are, let us say, having 120-degree phase displacement, then it is known as the symmetrical fault. So the definition part is the fault on the power system which gives rise to a symmetrical fault current. What is symmetrical fault current? It is the equal fault currents in the lines with 120-degree phase displacement. So if there is a fault on the 3 phases together, and if the fault current which is flowing in the system, it is 120, having 120-degree phase shift, then we'll tell that particular fault as a symmetrical fault. So symmetrical fault occurs when all 3 conductors of a 3-phase line are brought together simultaneously into a short circuit condition. So what is the we'll show this. You see this figure. So this is your R phase, this is your Y phase, and this is your B phase. So what will happen? There is a short circuit. Dead short circuit is occurring here. R phase and Y phase and B phase, this is short circuited. So this kind of fault, if it is there in the system, then it is known as the symmetrical fault. And that time, whatever current which is flowing in the system, That is known as the symmetrical fault current. So this type of fault gives rise to a symmetrical currents, that is the equal fault currents with 120-degree phase displacement. So the fault currents IR, IY and IB will be equal to in magnitude. Their magnitude will be equal. IR, IY and IB, this magnitude will be equal, but their phase displacement will be 120 degree. And because of the balanced nature of the fault, only one phase need to be considered in calculation, since condition in other two phases will also be similar. So in this particular analysis, we are not going to calculate all the three-phase current, because in symmetrical faults, you have to understand the fault current in each phases will be equal. So if you have calculated the fault current for let us say R phase, then that means that will be the same for Y phase, and that will be same for the B phases also. So the following points may be particularly noted. The symmetrical fault rarely occurs in practice, as majority of the faults are of unsymmetrical nature. Because this is very, very rarest fault. Symmetrical fault, it is a rarest fault, and if it is the kind of fault current, it will be very, very high. If let us say if there is a symmetrical fault occurs in the system, so the total fault current which will flow in case of if we compare with the unsymmetrical fault, so symmetrical fault current is much more higher than the unsymmetrical fault current. We'll see those things with the help of numerical problem, calculation. We'll see those things. These are merely the statement, but this statement we are going to verify in due course of time. Next, the symmetrical fault is the most severe and imposes more heavy duty on the circuit breaker, because you know that when there is a fault on the system, so which part will sense the fault? Anyone? Who will sense this fault current? Who will sense?
Relay.
Relay will sense. Correct. That is very, very correct answer. So relay will sense in this particular fault current, and based on this particular sensing mechanism, it will initiate the action towards the circuit breaker. So it will give the signal to the circuit breaker that you must operate. So then what will happen? The circuit breaker will operate and the circuit gets disconnected. So now afterwards, what will happen? When the fault gets cleared, then again the circuit breaker relay will be energized and circuit breaker will be closed. So this process will continue. So basically, the circuit breaker is a device which will use to protect the circuit, or it will be used. It is basically a switch. Circuit breaker, it is a switch, but it will operate when there is a fault is occurring in the system, or let us say if you want to do some maintenance kind of thing, you can also operate the circuit breaker manually. So there is a manual operation and automatic operation, both can be done in the circuit breaker. Now next is the limitation of the fault current. So when a short circuit occurs at any point in a system, the short circuit current is limited by the impedance of the system up to the point of fault. So let us say this is a system, this is a generator, and there is a transformer, and after that there is a fault. Fault has occurred after this. So what will happen? As referring to the figure, if a fault occurs on the feeder at point F, then the short circuit current from the generating station will have a value limited by the impedance of the generator and the transformer and the impedance of the line between the generator and the point of the fault. So what will happen, you see, if a fault occurs at this particular point, so this fault current will be, so when the current will flow, obviously there will be some impedance or the resistance of the circuit. So which kind of fault impedance will be offered towards this fault? So the generator, it has its own impedance. Transformer has some impedance. Now in between this connecting, this generator and transformer to the fault point, there will be also impedance. So those total impedance will be offered to limit this fault current. That means it will, if you increase the impedance, what will happen? The fault current will reduce. So if your impedance is low, the fault current will be high. So that means basically, depending upon how much impedance it is present in a circuit, that will also decide the level of the fault current. And if your fault current is high, so what will happen? The electrical apparatus which you are going to handle, that will be also of high capacity. Now, if you are having a high capacity electrical apparatus, so what will be the effect? Capacity of the device, if it is high, then
Cost increases, sir.
Cost increases. So that is the most important thing. The cost is the foremost important thing, which is actually we have to see, because if we are increasing the cost, so finally it will be impacted on our electricity price, because ultimately the company, they will recover their price from our electricity tariff. So this shows that the knowledge of the impedances of various equipment and the circuits in the line of the system is very important for the determination of the short circuit currents. In many situations, the impedances limiting the fault current are largely reactive, such as transformers, reactors, and generators. So basically, we have understood that this fault current has to be limited and it has to be within the limit. Now, what is the percentage reactance? This is very, very important. We should understand what is the meaning of this percentage reactance. So percentage reactance, it is defined as the voltage, the drop that is occurring across that particular circuit divided by your phase voltage into 100. So the reactance of generators, transformers, reactors, etc. is usually expressed in percentage reactance to permit rapid short circuit calculation. So it is a percentage of the total phase voltage dropped in the circuit when full load current is flowing. So that is percentage reactance equal to I into X by V into 100. So I is the full load current, V is the phase voltage, and X is the reactance in ohms per phase. Is it clear? What is how to calculate the percentage reactance?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, alternatively, percentage reactance can also be expressed in terms of kVA or kV. So you see kVA and kV means what will happen? It is I into X by V. So here you see percentage X equal to kVA by kV square. I think this is the definition of I. kVA by kV square, that is basically I, okay, into 10, and here it is X. So this you have to remember. You can alternatively you can express in terms of this percentage X will be kVA into X by 10 into kVA square, where X is the reactance in ohms. Now, if X is the only reactance element in the circuit, then the short circuit current. So short circuit current, what will be the short circuit current? Voltage by the reactance. So what is the voltage? Voltage is the phase voltage, V, and X is your reactance of the circuit. So reactance means here you see when there is a fault. So what will happen? The total reactance between the fault point and the generator. So this will be the total reactance. So based on that, we can calculate now what is the short circuit current. So short circuit current is obtained by multiplying the full load current by 100 by percentage X. Okay. So this is the way we are going to calculate the short circuit current. Now next is the percentage reactance and base kVA. So generally the various equipment used in the power system have different kVA ratings. Therefore, it is necessary to find the percentage reactances of all the elements on a common kVA rating. See what is the basically meaning of this thing. Let us say your generator, it is 200 megawatt. This transformer, it is 500 MVA. So after that, this line is having certain, let us say, range of handling the power. So the different electrical apparatus, it has different rating, power rating. But when we are going to analyze a fault, we need to scale down or scale up that particular, all those electrical parameters into a common platform. So common platform means in terms of a common kVA rating. So this common kVA rating is known as the base kVA. So this is very, very important, that how to choose a base kVA of a system. So the value of this base kVA is quite unimportant and maybe equal to the largest plant, equal to the total plant capacity, any arbitrary value. So there is no such guideline that which value you have to take for choosing your base kVA. There is no such specific guideline. Any value you can choose, but normally it is the usual practice that we should choose the highest value of that particular system that will be chosen as a base kVA of the system. So now we'll take one example. From that example, it will be clear. So let us see, there is a generator of 2500 kVA and its percentage reactance, it is given 10%. Then after that, we have a transformer that is 1000 kVA and its percentage reactance is 5%. And it's basically, it is a 11 kV by 66 kV transformer. And it is, after that, we have a 66 kV line. Now we are going to calculate what should be the short circuit current of this particular system. So let us say in this particular system, we can see that highest kVA is 2500. So if this highest 25 kVA is 2500, that means we are choosing first that this is the base kVA of the system. So based on this particular base kVA, now you see this particular transformer is at 1000 kVA. So 1000 kVA and its percentage reactance is 5%. So that means this particular percentage reactance is not as per the base kVA what we have chosen. Yes or no? You have to tell me. Whatever this 5%, it is given, it is based on 100 kVA. But we have chosen here the base kVA, it is 2500. So we need to convert this 5% reactance as per the base kVA what we have chosen. So now what we'll do, this 5 into 2500, because we are going to calculate for 2500 divided by 1000. It is very, very simple. I will just show you with the help of this. Let us say, so let us say for 1000 kVA, if it is a base rating, it is 5%. So for 1 kVA, it is 5% by your 1000. And for 2500 kVA, it should be 2500 by 100 by 1000 into your 5%. Am I clear? This calculation is okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So now you see. So this is basically 5 into 2500 by 1000. So that means you will get 12.5%. Now here you see, you come to the generator. So generator, it is at 2500 kVA. So whatever base you have chosen, that same base kVA it is there. And here the percentage reactance is 20%. So in this particular case, this will be the, will apply the same thing. It is 10% into 2500 by 2500. Basically, there will not be any change because whatever base kVA we have chosen, it has having the same base kVA. So the percentage reactance of the generator will be same as whatever is given. So it is 10%. So now the total percentage reactance on the common base kVA. So what will be the total? So the reactance of the generator plus the reactance of the transformer. So it is 12.5 plus 10. So that means it is 22.5. Okay. So now we know the total reactance. Now we have to calculate what is the full load current based on this 2500 kVA. And what is that? The 66 kV is the voltage of this line. We are, because fault will occur here. Here we are assuming the fault has occurred here. So what will happen? This is the your 2500 into kVA. So it is multiplied by 1000 by root 3 into 66 into 1000. This is based on your formula. That is kVA by your root 3 into kV. So kV is basically converted into volt. So 66 into 1000. So finally we are getting 21.87. Now the short circuit current, the formula is I into 100 by percentage X. So I we know that is 21.87 and percentage X we have calculated that is 22.5. So we are getting 97.2 is your fault current. Any idea, any doubt on this particular problem?
No, sir.
Anyone? Please tell me. I will repeat. I don't mind.
Yes, sir. ISC.
ISC. Okay.
Short circuit current, sir. Why take 100 by percentage reactance? 100. Why take?
It is the formula just now we have discussed. Na? This one. We are applying this formula.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. This formula we are applying. Clear? Any doubt?
Yes, sir. No, sir.
Okay, fine. So now let us say someone has chosen 2500, but I will say no, I will not choose 2500. I will choose 5000 kV. So any value you can choose. So now we are going to check that whether it is dependent on the base kVA, whatever we are, or it is something different. So in this case, we are going to check if we are choosing some another base kVA, and based on that, whether there is any change on the short circuit current, that is our objective. So we'll now do. So you see, this is a 5000 kVA we have chosen. So based on this 5000 kVA, we are going to calculate what is the reactance of the transformer. So it is 5%, it is given here, it is 5%. So 5 into 5000 by 1000, so it will come as 25%. Similarly, now we are going to change this because previously it was 2500 was the base kVA and its own kVA was 2500. So there was no change. But now we have to change it. So it is based on 5000 kVA. So 5000 kVA, it is basically 10 into 5000 by 2500. It is 20%. So the total reactance, this will be the reactance of the transformer plus the reactance of the generator. So percent plus 20, that means it is basically 45%. So we'll do the same calculation, that is 5000 kVA into 1000 by root 3 into 66 into 1000. This is 43.74. So the short circuit current will be ISC equal to I into 100 by percentage X. So we'll substitute this value. So we'll get the same value. So from this particular problem, these two numerical calculation, we can see that if we take different values of base kVA, there will not be any change on the value of the calculation of the short circuit current. So anyone can choose any base kVA. There is no such clear guideline that if you change the base kVA, then your problem or your output will be whatever you want to get, that will change. So it will remain same. So from the above illustration, it is clear that whatever may be the value of the base kVA, short circuit current remains same. However, in the interest of simplicity, numerically convenient value for the base kVA should be chosen. So it is up to the whatever value you want to take, but normally it is suggested that we should take some highest kVA value of the system. That is the usual practice. Now we'll take just one thing, that is a short circuit kVA. So we have calculated till now that how to calculate the short circuit current. Now short circuit kVA we are supposed to calculate. So the product of normal system voltage and short circuit current at the point of fault expressed in kVA is known as the short circuit kVA. So short circuit kVA, it is very easy because let V is the normal phase voltage in the volt, I is the full load current in ampere. So percentage X is the percentage reactance of the system on base kVA up to the fault current. So short circuit current ISC will be equal to I into 100 by percentage X. So short circuit kVA, we know that is 3, because VISC is the power, short circuit power of one phase. Now 3 into VISC is the short circuit power for the 3 phases, and divided by 1000 means it is in your, we are converting into kVA. So this is finally what will happen. You see this ISC we are substituting that I into 100 by percentage X. So 100 by percentage X. So 3 VI by 100,000, it is your base kVA. So base kVA into 100 by percentage X. So short circuit kVA, the formula is base kVA into 100 by percentage X. Is it clear? This formula is clear. How to calculate the short circuit kVA?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Now I will take this particular topic in next class. We'll conclude here this particular topic. Okay. Any doubt for this particular class? No, na?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you to all. Okay. I hope your all classes it is started. All systems. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And these recordings, it will be available in the YouTube. Okay. In your departmental channel, you will get all these videos. So whatever class I have taken till last yesterday, so that classes it is uploaded. So you can get immediately these videos. Okay, so that you can refer these lectures later on also. Okay, thank you to all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.